All right, and as the participants are joining in rapidly, we're coming in. Hey guys, how is everybody? And just so that the participants know, we are in a very, very big range of time zones. I'm really excited actually that we have such a range of 13 hours, I believe. So I am well, I can't say west, east, I don't know. It's 10 a.m. in Central Time Zone with Stephanie and I, and Dani is, what'd you say, 11 p.m.?
11 p.m. in the evening, yeah.
Yes, and then everyone else is in between. But we have,
Andy, sorry, Tyann, not only is there dedication on the 11 p.m. from Dani, but Andrew, you're on holiday as well.
I couldn't miss it.
For everyone joining, welcome. Thank you for joining. We'll just give it maybe a minute just to make sure everyone's here who's remembered to attend. If you have any questions as you go, chime in. I forget if it's raise your hand or a chat, Tyann, which one is it, or can they do both?
Yep, you can do both. You can raise your hand, you can chat, and then I also have a poll that I just launched. There's just 2 simple questions on it if you wouldn't mind posting there, because we are going to use the poll results to help direct the conversation today.
Amazing, thank you. Why don't we just get started? I hate it when I attend webinars and we wait 5 minutes for latecomers to join, because latecomers are too late, so let's crack on.
All right, so I want to introduce everybody here. And as each person is introduced, they're going to say hello, so you can put a name to a face. First, we have Andrew Dalby, the founder of ACT Studios.
Hello.
Rebecca Lombardo, Vice President of Sales and Marketing at TruPlace.
Hi.
Stephanie Farr, founder of MyAlux.
Hi, everyone.
And Dani Stein, owner of Villa Uma Dui Siri in Bali.
Hello, how are you doing?
And then I'm Tyann Marsing-Cammond with TouchStay.
And I'm Andy from TouchStay. Great. With that, let's crack on. We've got about the next 55 minutes. We usually do take up the whole hour, but if we run short, we run short. Don't be afraid to ask those questions, as I was saying earlier. The more we get back from you about whether or not you're not understanding what we're saying because we've gone off topic or whatever, just rein us back in or ask us the question. That's absolutely fine. We are talking about visuals, so I've already seen that Graham's asked about there's quite a huge difference between videos and floor plans. We are talking about all forms of visuals, so video, photos, floor plans, graphics, anything you're going to hit the guests with that isn't written down in kind of text, I would say. So the first question I want to ask is to Dani and Stephanie. So let's start with Stephanie first. The question is, as a operator yourself, are you finding that visuals are particularly powerful, or are you a bit, they're kind of okay, they don't do? What's your perspective on the power or otherwise of visuals?
So definitely the power of visuals is really, for us, it's the power of storytelling. So it's absolutely crucial. We invest heavily in having high quality professional photos for all the villas that we bring into our portfolio. We really see it as the guest vacation experience begins not when they step foot in our property, but really when they land on our website. And so what story are we telling, are we portraying through these photos? So that really, for us, it's the most crucial tool that we have for MyAlux.
Excellent. There's a ton of questions I actually want to ask you about that, but that would be diving into later stuff. So we might come back to that. I've already got a few notes. Dani, what's your view?
Images, visuals in general they're the showcase to your business. So for us, it's no matter where you are, if you are on an online booking agent, Airbnb, booking.com, or if you promote your business more on your website or on Instagram or Facebook, visuals are the most important thing. It's the first thing that makes people stop and wonder, and it makes you standing out from the rest. It's like when you have a traditional brick and mortar shop, and you make you choose all those nice products for your shop and decorate everything well in the shop. You put so much thought in it, and then how you get the people in, how you get the people not go to the composition. What makes them to choose your property or go in your shop? And the world now, especially in these times, it has become much more visual. So to have good imagery, to have good videos, to have a good digital presence, it's the most important thing to get customers to choose you over others.
Cool. I didn't think either of you would reply any differently, which is why I started with that question, because it's the shortest question, it's the shortest answer. But there's a lot more layers to what you've both said, which I am going to come back to, because I think it's important we explore how the visuals are used and what kind of visuals you use. But nonetheless, we'll come back to that. I want to quickly switch to Andrew and to Rebecca, just to get the perspective on the other side, which is from the supplier vendor side. Clearly, you're both in the business of trying to convince people that visuals are important and that you need them. So I'm clearly not going to ask you, do you think they're important? Because of course you do. But my question would be, if there's someone listening on this webinar who is thinking, in fact, Tyann, first of all, what was the answer to the question? Are people already using them? What's the percentage?
So we have 78% or 18 people. Yes, they have professional photos. 9% no, they do not. And 13% plan to within a year. And of course, it does drop further down for the question number 2. Do you have video or floor plans? 43%, less than half, do. 30% is a no. And 26% plan to within a year. And I'm going to go ahead and end the poll. And I'll throw that up there on the screen. Folks can see that real quick.
Okay, so the story is that, yeah, we pretty much all have professional photos, but not so much on the video or floor plans. So I think that's a useful context to take into the question to you guys, Rebecca and Andrew, is not so much let's talk about photos and how much they would cost, but let's talk maybe a little bit more about the other aspects of visuals, the floor plan, and not just floor plans, but other visual graphics, etc. Clearly not everyone's doing them yet. They're not that yet convinced, or maybe it's slightly lower down the priority. What would you say? Would you say they are kind of really important things to do? And if so, are they typically a little bit more expensive? I'm not expecting you to kind of say, oh, it costs £1,000 or $1,000, because you don't necessarily know what the size of property you are, but some kind of indication of the difficulty, the cost, and the eventual payback of that, if you've got any idea on that. Andrew, let's start with you.
Oh, I was going to let Rebecca go first, Andrew. Yeah, happy to go first. So the actual floor plan thing. So there's a number of ways to present the accommodation you have on offer, right? There's lots of technologies. You could just go and get a tape measure and draw your own map of your own property, like you used to do in the old days, to give an idea of what it is you have to provide people. And then there's a multitude of other technologies these days that help present a property as more of an interactive and a photographic floor plan, and then there's all types of funky information that can be embedded within that, even virtually allowing people to look at tape measures, see the property with a VR headset on if you totally want to go nuts on all of this sort of stuff. But so there's lots of ways to do that, but it's getting, what I have to say is I think over the last 5 or 6 years, it's got a lot easier. When we first started, when ACT first started, the interactive walkthrough 3D floor plan, that was our number one key thing we used to shout about. But it's just that has become easier to produce. I don't know if Rebecca will agree or disagree on that point. And we really value much more now the professional photography. But because that's not as commodity as creating these whiz-bang interactive floor plans. From my perspective here in the UK, that's the only place we really work. Rebecca tackles the rest of the world single-handedly, I'm sure. But you know, we've ran around over the last 6 or 7 years and produced over 2,000 interactive floor plans of properties, which has been fun, to say the least. Lots of interesting stories doing it. But we're just, it's quite a discreet thing. You go around, we selected a technology that's really quite progressive called Matterport, and we know how to, you get good at doing it. And so we selected that one because it's a very high quality one, that it's big on visuals. It also presents floor plans in a number of ways. But at the end of the day, it makes it very easy to just drop someone within the property and walk around that. Now, the cost of actually producing the floor plans for us, yes, it depends on the property size, but for a property, a kind of a standard holiday home here in the UK, so a 3-bed property, we would charge something like, I don't know, £400 for the photographer to drive there, find the property, get into the property, work around the cleaners, present the property, then capture it, and then process and produce it. So we're not talking, there's a lot of work, but we're not talking about a lot of money. The real skill and talent part of the job is the photography. And it's taken, over the years, I've realized that more and more. So that's what I've got to say. So you'll get your money back within, one booking for having one of these things. But what we also know is owners and guests like them for a lot of reasons, and I can elaborate on that later on. Conscious I'm taking up a lot of time here.
No, that's very good. It's a really interesting price point. I was expecting something more than that for based on everything you described that goes into making that. Rebecca, what's your take on that? Do you subscribe to the same things that Andrew's talking about? Or do you have some different perspective on it?
So yes, obviously I'm still a big fan of professional photography, but I want to echo something that Stephanie said about the guest experience. And yes, the guest experience starts with the tour, with the visual tour, right? Because you're setting the guest expectations at that point. I will say that we just released a 10-page report on analytics about what we found on our tours, what happened during COVID with the tours. So plenty of data points, plenty of supporting points to back up everything that Andy and I are going to tell you. But what we found is that because of COVID, virtual tours are now table stake. So it used to be, well, you've got to have photos, obviously. And it's like, well, do you do professional or not? And now it's like, well, you have to have a virtual tour. You have to have some kind of additional information, whether that's a video or a floor plan, interactive floor plan, that kind of thing. So what we're finding is that people are changing the way they stay. And you have to pay attention to that, because that's going to indicate what kind of visuals help support their decision. Specifically, you're looking at work remote, right? Like work from anywhere. So it's not just a matter of vacation and I'm going to leave all my electronics at home. My son would love for me to throw my iPhone in the pool, right? It's more about like, is this bedroom next to the Wi-Fi? Is it next to the family room area where a lot of noise is going on because I'm going to be working remotely? So if you know the guest is thinking about that as they're making their booking decision, you have to provide that information visually, right? Not just in text. And the best way to do that is an interactive floor plan tour where they can easily see, where things are in relation to other things. The the video is important because that is a core marketing piece. And if you're going to be on Facebook or Instagram, you're going to have a video. It has to be a certain length, it has to be like a highlight reel. And that's going to reach a totally different demographic than something like, a link to a floor plan tour might. What we noticed during COVID was that the average age of the viewer dropped from about 35 years old to about 25 years old, which is incredible. So you have to pay attention to the shift in the, who's looking at these visuals as well. What we found in our analytics report was that on our interactive floor plan tours, folks tend to spend about 3 to 10 minutes on the virtual tour. That's a long time. Like, that's a lot of great SEO juice. Like, that's a lot of time for them to be planning and thinking. So if you have a virtual tour, you can get 3 to 10 minutes. Whereas if you just have standard photography, it might be less than that.
And if I may, Dani, I'm going to come to you in 1 second. I see you. If I may, Rebecca, I think that also the 3 to 10 minutes is a really good indicator that a guest is craving much more than a visual photo these days. They're craving, like, show me exactly where that bedroom is and where the cupboard is and the toilet in proximity to the family bathroom. And I'd say it's the time on the page is less relevant. It's the very fact that the time on the page signals the demand from the guest to have something like that. I think it's a really, really interesting metric there.
Yeah, because it's not just the time on the pages, that's the time on the tour. That's the time on the interactive floor plan tour, not the time on the property page.
Yeah, it's a long time. Dani, you wanted to say something on that.
Yeah, I just wanted to add on what Andrew and Rebecca just said, because we added a virtual tour onto our website just in March, I think we released it. And since then, many of our bookings came because of the virtual tour. Things have changed a lot in this pandemic. We are living, and people are much more cautious, much more selective where they go. And we had bookings where people, they ask a lot, and you send them the guidebook and they're still not convinced. And we send them the link to the virtual tour and they book. And what Rebecca said, I can confirm it. We look in our analytics tool, and people, they spend 10, 15 minutes on a tour. It's incredible, and I think it's a really nice add-on if you can add that somehow to your rental, to your hotel, whatever.
Brilliant. I think that in itself is a huge takeaway, given that 78%, something like that, people have. Tyann, I'm going to come to you in a second. Have the photos, so it's like, well, if you've done all that and you really want bang for your buck, the virtual tour seems like the way to go, and seemingly not at a massive price point either. Tyann, go for it.
I do want to put the price point in perspective in a way that a lot of people don't think about it. So let's not look at it dollars, pounds, pesos, whatever it is. Look at it as the number of nights. So if your professional photography costs you 2 nights, or maybe your floor plan costs you 1 night, can you get 3 additional nights in a year? And then think about it, is this photo and floor plans will actually last you more than a year. So let's say they last you 3 years. Are you going to get 1 single additional night for the next 3 years with these? Are you going to up your guest experience? Are you going to have phenomenal guest experience reviews because of the cost of 1 night a year? It's really a no-brainer.
And I wonder as well, can you increase the price of your night somewhat as well? Given that hopefully your virtual tour showcases your property in all its glory in a way that the photo can't. Seems like it's a nice kind of play there together. Stephanie, do you use floor plans in the same way that the others are talking about?
We have selected floor plans for some of our properties. To be honest, we have not. So listening to Rebecca, I was like, okay, I'm just looking at my creative director who's sitting here. I'm like, we got to get on that right now. So yes, we actually, to be honest, we've lagged a little on the floor plans. We do have a selective portfolio of our villas that have virtual tours, and yes, they have converted. They're embedded in Google Maps for the properties that we have with Google Maps. So that's been really helpful and is creating a lot of traction for our properties to be searched through Google outside our website. it's something that we definitely want to embed on our website and be a lot more proactive with it. We've always been really bullish on the photos, but we also, it's coming to the point, you know, since with COVID, and there's just so much noise out there in terms of information and, you know, text, having to read, you know, a lot of villas have their description forms, and it's like, who actually still filters through paragraphs and paragraphs of information? So yes, if we say a photo tells, you know, it's 1,000 words, I can imagine a virtual tour is, you know, exponentially more. So we're definitely going to be stepping into that for sure.
That leads me on to the question I wanted to ask you when you answered your first question. But before I jump onto that, anybody who's listening, any of the attendees, if you've got your own perspective on like a particular thing you did that transformed something, like you put a virtual tour in and you saw results, or your photos for the 20% of people that don't have photos yet, like, can you tell them something that would mean they would get professional photos? Feel free to, like, you can turn on your mic and talk if you want, but if you don't want to, you could just put it in the message. That'd be really interesting to hear. But yes, definitely. So my question there, actually, interestingly, is given that we all buy into the idea that visuals are important, and of course we've discussed a couple of the important visuals, how do you sequence these things on either your listing sites or on your web pages if you're not thinking so much anymore that copy is doing it? How do you make the most of these visuals when you're presenting them in the pages that guests are seeing?
Sure. So as I mentioned, we're most bullish with photos. So we invest in professional photographers always for any villa that we list on our website. It's actually really funny because we are in the luxury industry. So we sometimes have, you know, owners will invest millions of dollars in their home and then just take pictures with their phone. And we have, you know, just dark images, off angles, the maids in the background photobombing, and you know, it's hysterical. So we really, you know, we understand the value of having professional photos. And so for us, the sequence is really, we always have those 2 top money shots. In that first, typically we have about 25 pictures per property, 25 to 35, depends how big the property is and how much space we want to showcase. There's a lot of exterior spaces, interior spaces that we want to showcase. So that really depends, but typically it's 25 to 35 pictures. And then, yes, so we have the first 2 shots, 3 shots are the money shots. So that's the beautiful backdrop, the Caribbean, Mexican Ocean with the infinity pool. You have obviously the lighting could be based on dusk or dawn. We pick the, you know, the golden hours to take those exterior shots. And also, so then leading from those money shots, we then step it into the exterior common areas. So really the nice areas. So it's kind of like taking, again, that story that we take our guests through the pictures. And then we have the common interior areas, and then we go into the bedrooms. So the next sequence would be the bedrooms, and then the final sequence would be the bathrooms. And then, or if we have any other miscellaneous shots that we want to show of what's around the beach or, you know, around aerial views, etc. So that's typically the sequence that we have. And then just to go in a little more detail, we stage frequently the villas. So we want the guests to understand what that experience looks like. I always say a vacation, 20% of it is the home, and then the 80% is the experience of the vacation. So we try to, even though it's static, we try to portray that experience through staging photos. We have experiential photos, like a chef serving meal, preparing a meal, mixologists, butlers, whatever we can to showcase what that experience would look like. And then in terms of staging, we'll set the tables, we'll have, you know, cocktails outside by the pool, you know, whatever we can to really entice our guests to step into their future vacation home.
We were talking earlier pre the call, Tyann and I, about the staging the sequence, and would you start like, would you walk chronologically through the home? Would you start with a money shot? How would you do it? And you've clearly explained how you do it. But Andrew, on like standing on the professional side, not everybody has got that beautiful Mexican beach, kind of the golden hour money shot to take. But
I just say, Steph, you had me at an infinity pool.
Okay, you guys are welcome.
Yeah.
Next time we'll do this. We'll do this in at a pool and on the beach in Mexico. So.
and Dani's the same. Like, I've seen Dani's photos, brilliant, beautiful shots. Like, easy. It takes skill, but it's there at your footsteps. But for those who've got like a condo in the city, or they've got like a cottage in the woods somewhere. Andrew, what do you think about the money shot? What is your money shot? Would you advise?
Well, I was thinking, when you were talking about, mega cocktails by the infinity pool, I was thinking, we're normally thinking scones, jam and cream. nice presentation, and with a nice holiday cottage. No, but we over the years, we've kind of boiled this down to three things. And that is when we're actually on a photo shoot, it's quite a fascinating science, because the owner views the properties very different to how guests view the properties as well. They get kind of attached to them in certain ways, etc., and they kind of forget why. What does the guest? What's most attractive to the guest? What does the guest most enjoy in that property? So they really need to study the reviews very carefully. What are those key points that guests find? But so a photographer, professional photographer, someone like Tyann, rocks up to a property to photograph. They'll be looking through that. They'll be looking for the USPs through quite a different lens potentially. And we act, myself, Marcin, our guys, we're really trying to focus on finding that what we call impact shots first and foremost. Impact shots. These are the show-stopping shots. Okay, we're trying to get, because we're in a scrolling world now, aren't we? You've got like 2 seconds to engage someone and attract them. So we're trying to get those key impact shots. Now, whether that is, does the property have a USP where you've got this amazing view through the living room area, past a beautiful log fire out onto a beach? You want to be shooting through the properties and bringing those views in. Pull the killer views into the property, for example. Or as you mentioned a dusk or dawn shoot. Is that going to be the most breathtakingly heart-stopping shot about this property? They're the impact shots we're going for. We'll be looking also for experience shots. So an experience, we're coming out of lockdown. Everyone's been locked up within our own properties. What we want is we want to be sitting on a table that's beautifully dressed, overlooking fields, overlooking the ocean, for example. That's the kind of experience stuff that people desire right now, and also sell properties much more than a photograph of a well-made bed, for example. And so then you've got the experience shots, and then you've got the functional shots, because you have to have coverage of what is inside the property. And yes, beautifully taken, beautifully dressed, with local, food, flowers, etc., brought in and dressed beautifully. It's those three things you want these days: impact, experience, and functional. Because the photography is going to attract people. You want, without that key shot, you could have all sorts of digital assets within your property, your presentation, your website, etc., but you've missed your guest scrolling through onto someone else's property. So you've got to attract them. And then once you've got them, you've brought them into your world, into your shop, that's when you want to engage them deeply with your virtual tour. So they're just brought within the property. Now, as we all, the digital age continues and we're a little bit more savvy, and you don't just want to say, yeah, here's our virtual tour. That's the old school way of doing it. What you want to do is use multiple points to enter into your virtual tour, because that's where you're going to keep people. because, you know, if you've got a big property, you can't expect them to start in the dining room and walk around all the bedrooms necessarily. Whilst you're presenting that property on your website, you want to keep dropping them into via different entry points into the same virtual tour now. And that's just how modern virtual tours work. It has that capability. So yeah, attract with the images, your sequence, etc., but then engage with your digital assets and be thinking about the customer journey. Make it as easy as possible for them and make it as easy as possible to book or ask further questions.
Got it. Rebecca, you had your hand up.
Yes, I wanted to mention we quite often get asked about the seasons in photos for those outside Florida who actually have seasons. Our other faces. You know, what money shot do we put up first, right? If it's a holiday, do we put those? If it's summer, do we put those? So we get often asked, you know, which one do we put first, and then when do I change them out? So one thing that I want to say is that, again, thanks to COVID, everything has gone wonky and people are booking for one season at a different time than they normally did. And to have the freedom to display all seasons, you know, if you want to stick it at the end, like right now, summer, and people typically book for fall, if you want to put those first, that's fine. But don't be afraid to leave that other season up there. Don't be afraid to leave the snow-covered lodge photo, you know, up there at the end of your slider, if you like, because what you're doing is planting a seed in someone's head, like, oh, I never even thought about going to Telluride for that season. But now that I've seen that photo, hey, maybe that's actually a good idea. So I just wanted to throw that out there because we get asked that a lot.
Yeah, it's a good point. And it's not at all confusing because we all know, oh, there's a snow shot because that's what it's like in the winter, you know? So I think it's a good idea, certainly as a scene setter. Dani, what's your view on putting people in photos? Do you use people in the photos or do you keep it typically just to the property in the scenes?
Well, it depends very much what channels we're talking about. Obviously, on your website, you can do what you want. If you talk about online travel agents like Airbnb, I think Airbnb has a thingy where they say there shall be no people in the pictures. Maybe they're taking this out. I don't. But there was something like this. I don't know if it's still like that. But oh yeah, right. No, that was Airbnb. I was 2 years back. I was taking pictures for Airbnb. They contacted me here in Bali for a program that they had, Airbnb Plus. I think it doesn't exist anymore. They gave up on it, at least here in Indonesia. And there they said there shall be no people in the pictures. They didn't want it. If you promote your vacation rental, your hotel on Instagram, on Facebook, then yes, there it's more about the experience, and they want to see how they want to see the guests want to see themselves in the place, and that works best with people in the picture. So definitely yes, and then on your website, you mix it. But I wouldn't necessarily do it on the online travel agents.
Yeah,
like
I think
Booking.com, Airbnb.
I think you raise a good point, which is to use the assets that you've got depending on the channel. And you're right, Insta is a bit more like I do want to see a bit more of someone on an experience. But I was also reminded of, I think it's you and your wife on your own website with the beautiful Bali dress. And that conjures up a great scene as well, which is really why I was asking.
That's on our own website, and there we really sell. This is our story. Our place, our villa is not only a vacation rental. It's really, I mean, we are here right now. We're in the lockdown, but so we came here, and we normally come here every weekend. And we meet people here. So of course you want to give a little bit something to personal to your future guests. And on some conversations on Airbnb on booking requests, we actually had people asking, "Oh, are you guys going to be there?" But obviously this depends how you offer your property. If it's you won't do that in a hotel or in I don't know, in an apartment complex, but for sure, if you meet your guests, show yourself.
Yeah, that's a good point. Match your visuals to the brand that you're trying to give off, I guess what you're saying there. There was a question that came in for you, Stephanie. I don't know if you saw it, about you're integrating your floor plans with Google. And somebody's asked, how did you do that?
It was actually virtual tours that we integrated with Google. So we actually just had a local professional that works with Google came and did the virtual tours and embedded them into our Google page. So it's a business. Recently, I would say basically in the past 2 years, Google has allowed private homes to register as a business. And so like you have hotels, so basically private villas then can integrate virtual tours since then onto their property. So you first have to register your home as a business, and then from there you can embed your virtual tour.
So registering your home as a business is like claiming that Google business listing, isn't it?
Exactly.
That process.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Good. There is another question, but I think we'll save that. Tyann, I wanted to ask you, because I know that you trialed people in one of your properties. I think it was your 10-bedroom property recently. It was Nat, your husband. I'm intrigued. Did you see any results from that?
We did. And just to clarify, it wasn't just normal people photos. It was to show off our personality. So our big property is called Sky Retreat, after Isle of Skye in Scotland. And all of the artwork is from Scotland. And we actually eloped there. So Nat donned his kilt, and we took a few key photos of him in his kilt in the property, just to show the fun side, that it's not serious. It's one of those things where, for a while, somebody was taking pictures of someone dressed up in a T-Rex costume and putting them into real estate listings. And it's just, oh, wait, what's that? Type of thing. So we have Nat going down the slide. We have him pouring coffee, and we make sure to hashtag it Scott not included.
I was going to say, yeah.
And we have had excellent feedback. A few people would, message and said, oh my gosh, I wanted to book your property just because of the fun atmosphere you have relayed to us through these photos. But the dates don't work, so we're going to have to come back to you. Or someone said, we just love how you make it fun. And that was our point, just to have something fun. The other thing with people in photos I've started to do is asking guests, hey, can we have your family photo after they've left, or while they're there? I'll say, depending upon if they're having a good stay, if I feel comfortable, but I'm going to be setting up an auto email saying, could you send us your family photo if you'd like? We want to start a family photo page on our website. And just for the simple fact of people can see the type of people and how inclusive we are of everybody. And I love being able to see the families that come to the properties, because we are remote hosting. We don't get to meet the folks. And, the last one that was just sent to us, shows 28 people, the granddaughter in the wheelchair and the family dog. Like, that is our target market, and showing folks, people just like you are coming to stay.
You've described exactly what Dani was describing as well, and Steph as well. Like, all of you really, it's about matching those visuals with the brand that you want to portray. And so, like, I think this is quite interesting for anyone. If you've got a property, don't, in my opinion anyway, don't be kind of thinking about what should I do, like what should my photos be, but what do I want my photos to convey about the kind of place they're coming to stay in. Like the scones on the table, Andrew, it's a great example of, like, if you are somebody who's into making guests feel comfortable and welcomed and, feeling a little special, and then a shot of that is great. So I think that's really, really, really interesting. Question from Jan about, do you create a YouTube channel of videos, inside tours and some experience videos? Rebecca, you're nodding. Do you want to take that one?
Yeah, I do. Video is fantastic. So we have, because we have a real estate side to our business, we've been doing what we call walkthrough videos, where it's an actual video walking through the home. On the vacation rental side, some people have inquired about aerial drone videos, and we also have slideshow videos. And so every time we produce a video, it creates a YouTube link and a Vimeo link. And so those are incredibly popular and great to use, because anytime you post any video on YouTube, obviously you get the analytics with that. So those are all great ideas.
Okay, cool. I just missed actually a question that Kate had sent in here about what do the panelists think about the importance of photos showing a property decorated for Christmas or other peak demand celebrations. Who wants to take that? Anybody?
Not me.
I'm happy to take that one.
I can't say much about it. We don't have Christmas here, so no seasons.
I think it very much depends upon your location, as Dani just demonstrated. For instance, our Table Rock properties, we're in old-fashioned Christmas. Christmas starts November 1st throughout the entire town. It is Christmas tree city. So you have to advertise, because if you don't show a Christmas tree photo in the fall when people are booking Christmas, they're going to ask you, do you decorate for Christmas? What does it look like? What extent do you go to? And even as far as, we make sure we tell people, hey, we put a 9-foot Christmas tree up. Other folks, they go even more all out. So to me, it very much depends upon your location, and it goes back to your target guest, if that is something your target guest is going to expect.
But your target guest doesn't necessarily celebrate Christmas. So how do you handle that?
To me, it's also, they're coming to experience your area and what your area does. So even if they don't celebrate Christmas, it might be they're coming to experience the area, and that's what's going on in your area at that time.
Okay, all right, cool. I do have one more question to ask, but let's go to the final question on the chat that I've seen from Graham. He's talking about it's a little bit different, a little bit off subject, but I think it's interesting, having a virtual souvenir store. So you're still kind of showing stuff visually. But I guess it's less of a question for Andrew and Rebecca, but Dani or Stephanie, do you sell things on your website? Or are you trying to sell things? Do you have a perspective on that, Stephanie?
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely a great question. And that's something we're integrating right now in the back end, is building a virtual store and selling products for our guests. And the idea is that, again, it connects, it's experiential while they're here. And we're going to give the guests the option, if they want to, instead of going out and looking for a souvenir for their family, they just basically will check off what they want while they're here. So they could use that store on our website to basically check off, and they could bring gifts home, or basically they could purchase virtually online. So I definitely think it's an amazing idea. If you could take that initiative and build it in, for sure.
Okay, cool. Right, let's go to the last question. We kind of went a bit like in a discussion phase there. Let's come back to the question. So the final question, provided the attendees don't have anything. This is to the panelists, if people listening had to choose one thing now from the visual kind of toolkit to invest in, I think I know the answer, which one would it be? Dani.
Oh, because I opened the microphone, right? It really depends. It really depends where you want to do your marketing. So if you don't want to do direct bookings, there's people. I think there's many out there, especially in from what I read in forums in Northern America. They're just happy to go to Airbnb and URBO, whatever there is. Then certainly the only thing you actually can do is invest in good photos. Mm-hmm. Because you can't display videos, you can't display virtual tours and all the other things we talked about. So certainly go out and know your target market, know yourself, what is it, what you're selling, what's your unique selling point, and from there invest in good imagery, and it will make a difference.
Okay, cool. So it's more of an investment in defining what it is you stand for and what your brand is and what you want to get across, and then go and shoot the video, the photos to put on your Airbnb listing, etc.
I think, you must know your target audience and what they want, what they're looking for in your place. We animate our customers to post their photos on Instagram, for example, and this is where we learn how they see our place.
Okay, good. Let's stay with the operator side. So Stephanie, what would you say?
I agree. It's definitely, I would say, stick to imagery. If there was one thing that we could focus on, definitely high-res professional photos. Exactly like Andy said as well, it's seeing things through the lens of a guest and not necessarily as a property owner. Those are two very different views. So the imagery is one, but going behind and matching what your voice is. If you're a company, if you're a villa rental company, what is the voice of the company? What are you trying to portray? And how do you portray that through the pictures? And if you're just one property and you have a listing through Airbnb or any other OTA, then yes, it's what is that experience that you're trying to portray? What is that story that you're trying to say? And that's really what's going to separate you or distinguish you from your neighbors or from any other competing companies, really. So yes, it's a tough question because there's a lot that we could do, but for sure, absolutely images.
Cool. All right, Rebecca.
Yeah, I love the consideration of where is your revenue coming from, because if it is coming from the OTAs and they don't allow interactive floor plan tours to display there, that's going to change your answer, right? If you know that you're getting a ton of attention on social media like Instagram, then you know that you might want to spice things up with some video. So I think you need to look at where your viewers are coming from, where your visits are coming from, where your revenue is coming from, and then make the most appropriate decision based on that. Likewise, if you're getting a ton of reservation agent calls, you might want to seriously think about the floor plan, because our floor plans reduce the reservation agent calls by about 33%. Like Dani was saying earlier, where just it answers those questions that a human, had to answer before. So
interesting.
Those are all great things to take into consideration.
Interesting. I just want to cover off this floor plan not being able to put it on Airbnb or the OTAs. Is that floor plan interchangeable with Matterport? Are we talking about the same thing?
No, I'll let Andrew answer for his too. But to clarify, you can take a JPEG, like a file of a floor plan, and use that as a photo image and put that on the OTAs, I think. But what I'm talking about and what I think Andrew mentioned before is like there's an interactive floor plan where you hover over the word family room and then you see a picture of the family room. So you used to have a floor plan and you have the corresponding photo. Those are not going through to the OTAs. 3D tours do flow through to like VRBO. So those virtual tours, that format does go through to some of the OTAs.
Okay, got it. Thank you. That was one of the questions. And actually, maybe you can take the second part of the question, Andrew. If you've got that Matterport tour, that walkthrough, can that be on YouTube? Can you like play the video through?
Yeah. A few years ago, things like Rightmove property listings and the OTAs, what they didn't want guests going off their platform, and that's what these 3D virtual tours, they're hosted elsewhere. You're taken away from their platforms unless they're totally integrated. So over time, more and more integrations have been done, which means some of them allow them, like VRBO, I understand, allows them. So it's about not being taken away from the platform, which you can understand. They want to keep you on there. And what was the other question, Andy?
Someone had asked, could you put the floor plan, the Matterport tour on YouTube? To me, a Matterport tour is you're taking yourself through the property.
They're very different. They're very different things. What you do have is video elements that you can download and they're videos, and you can just upload to YouTube.
Yeah.
And there's all these different types of capture applications and services, so it's becoming a lot easier.
Okay. And the real question was, what would you invest in? Like, what's the visuals that you would invest in?
It depends what you've already got for me, and it also depends on your positioning, your brand, and how you want to advertise, exactly as Dani said, and everyone else echoed those points. I think I'm very conscious that people don't, I know I'm a lazy reader. You just get stuck on the images and scrolling around images, don't you? And I think today's virtual tours and the pictures go very well together. So, and the other feedback we've got from working with agencies and owners, etc., having both high quality visuals really says something about the fact you care about your property, and you know, not everyone has it, so stand down and care. If you've got something good, care about it and demonstrate that by presenting it well.
Yeah, no, it's good to see that 3/4 of the people do already have the professional photos. I think that shows a sign of the times, really, how far we've come. But presumably the next kind of gateway is thinking about how you, like we've been talking about, how you present those, how you pair it with virtual tours, etc. So great, thank you. Tyann, anything else to add before we wrap up?
Yeah, so Barry, one of our attendees, had a comment about how he's using visuals in a very good way that is a big converter. He says he replies to inquiries with a talking head video instead of a text reply or email reply. And this is hugely converting for him. So using the visuals of a video to speak directly to the guest. Interesting. And because shooting video can sometimes take a while. So Barry, do you just kind of use the same one, or do you address each one like, hello, Andy, or hello, Rebecca? Quite intrigued to know whether you, yeah. Okay, yep, cool. Well, we'll let Barry reply if he's got time. Hey, he has replied. Just sit in front of a laptop, no script, 15 seconds. I like it. I like your style. Don't overcomplicate it. It's not rocket science. Great. All right, fantastic. Post to YouTube and send the link. Yep, very easy. Very easy.
We also, just if I could just chime in, we offer a full concierge service. So once a guest books, we then put them in touch with their concierge, and the concierge will take care of every detail prior to arrival. And we introduce the sales agent, we call Bill Specialist, to the concierge via video. So sometimes we'll film that video at the villa with the housekeepers and just basically saying, hey, you know, standing in the place where they're going to be and relaying all the information that they gave to their sales agent to the concierge, creating a dialogue, a conversation in the villa that they're going to arrive to. And we've had incredible feedback on that. We will just upload it to either Vimeo or YouTube and send it to the guests and say, we're really excited and our concierge wants to say a word to you. And we get into a creative competition. Sometimes we have repeat guests. So we try to up the video from the previous year, the previous booking. So we'll, you know, come up with creative ways to introduce the concierge or, you know, reintroduce and say, hey, we're really excited for you to come and stay with us. And we've had incredible feedback on that. We actually want to take it to the next level where when guests are showing that video or you know, we could add referrals or add traction by sharing that video. But it's been by far one of the most impact pieces that we've created for our guests.
I really love that idea. We did a podcast recently with a guy called Wes Melton. We're running the podcast. He was a host on it. And he was saying that it's funny how these days we almost think about trying to automate everything and not having a dialogue with our guests, whereas he thinks that it should be the reverse. Like we should be trying to get across our brand, what it is to stay with us. And you've described that very eloquently, perfectly. So thanks for interjecting with that. Cool. Tyann, I saw you put the last poll up. Anything else to add before we close up?
Nope, I think that's it.
All right, wonderful. Panelists, anything else you want to add?
Just a friendly reminder that there's kind of a big time gap between when they originally convert and book and when they actually show up. So in your email communication, if you're not already doing this, you can send a link to that virtual tour again, just a friendly reminder, this is the place you booked, this is the virtual tour on it. So if people want to start going in and cleaning bedrooms, they can do that at that time. Yeah.
Like it. One of my pet
We
peeves
have
is
that.
is you book and then you hear nothing from the person you're staying with until you arrive. And there's a gulf of things you could do to like get me excited, and brilliant. That's one simple way. Fantastic.
I think
Tyann, sorry.
Rebecca, yeah, the whole floor plans between the time of booking and arrival is huge, especially with us with large houses. And guests will call us. They're like, okay, we see the floor plan. Do the bed numbers that you have listed on your website match with the bedroom numbers? So they want to make sure they're putting the kids near the adults and all of that. So Rebecca, that's really good point.
Cool. All right. Well, all that remains to say is thank you to the panelists. Great discussion, some great tips. I really appreciate your time and your thoughts. Attendees, thank you for attending. Thanks for asking questions. Hopefully you took a few things away from it as well. If not, answer no to that last question, because it will help us to understand that we're not doing our job properly. And with that, Tyann, over to you, close up.
All right. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming. And we will run this topic again in August. And then we're also going to do some more webinars, one coming up in August for upsell. It's an Australian UK one. I'll be asleep during that time, so you won't see me. You'll see our community ambassador, Hazel, and then see our website, touchday.com/webinars for our full list for the fall. We have some really exciting webinars coming up. And if you feel you would be a good panelist for it, just send me an email, tyann@touchday.com, and we'll see where we can fit you in. And I very much appreciate all of you. Panelists, attendees, Andy, thank you so much.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot. See ya. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you for having us.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye, guys.
Thanks, Andy. Thanks, Diane.